الله أكبر الله أكبر.
فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ونزلنا عليك الكتاب تبيانا لكل شيء وهدى ورحمة وبشرى للمسلمين. صدق الله العظيم. اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. آمين يا رب العالمين. Respected Chairman, Brother Nizam Baksh, my learned younger brother, or my son, Maulana Atif Majid, Brother Shiraz, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Here at the Barrackpore Islamic Center, where we had the International Islamic Retreat in October 2009, and there are many who would view this video on the internet who were present for that retreat, and probably their tears will fall in memory of that wonderful time that we had here in Barrackpore several years ago. We begin with Suratul Isra of the Quran, which also has another name. It's also called Suratul Bani Israel, but that's not very well known. And it's the first ayah or the first verse. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us something about what might qualify as the most exciting moment in the life of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. But before we turn to that verse of the Quran, let me share with you what Allah has said in Surah Al-Nahl. He says that we have sent down this book, the Quran, that this book might explain all things. And if we neglect this book and we do not search for that which Allah has sent to explain all things, and live our lives in ignorance, we'll pay a price for it. He has sent down this book, the Quran, that it might explain all things. And in it, there is guidance which has come down as rahmah, an act of kindness from Allah, and with good news and glad tidings for those who believe in the book and who go to the book to study it. How do we go to the book to study the Isra and Meeraj? Allow me a few minutes before we begin the lecture to remind you, if you need to be reminded, of how the Quran should be studied. I know we live in the age of the smartphone, and as a consequence, people don't have time anymore for the Quran. But 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, people had more time. And they had a hunger for knowledge that seems to be disappearing today. And so tonight we speak with the heart, to your heart, to ask you and to ask myself, come back to the Quran. You will never go wrong. No, if you come back to the Quran. You will always be blessed by Allah if you always put the Quran first. Whatever you have to teach, go first to the Quran and then go elsewhere. So when we go to the Quran, Allah teaches us a lesson. He ordered the malaika, the angels, to make sajda before Adam alayhi salam. And they all made sajda except one, illa Iblis. If you take one verse of the Quran in isolation and you study it to get a conclusion, then the conclusion would be, and of course it would be wrong, that since the command was given to the angels and they all made sajda except one, he had to be an angel. And when I was a boy, I came to that conclusion. Yes, he had to be an angel, because logically, I didn't realize that Allah was teaching a lesson in methodology. When you go to the whole Quran, something else comes, another conclusion comes. But how many people have the time to study the Quran? He says in the Quran about the malaika, the angels, وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. They don't have any choice. When Allah gives a command to an angel, the angel must obey. But he disobeyed, so he can't be an angel. And then in Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran, Allah says, وَكَانَ مِنَ الْجِنِّ. Iblis was not an angel, he was a jinn. I am speaking slowly because I want it to sink in. So those of you who make time to study the Quran will not come to a conclusion based on one solitary verse or one hadith, but would take time to study the book as it ought to be studied. Allah teaches us about a second thing about methodology for studying the Quran. I remember I was a student, Alimia Institute, and Maulana Ansari, we had just performed the Salat in the masjid, and I would catch him to ask a question. So I caught him outside the masjid. I said, Maulana, how come Allah says that He sent this book to provide guidance for a people who fear Allah? What about the rest? What about the rest? So he said to me, may Allah have mercy on his soul, my teacher, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah. He says, when Allah sent the Quran to all of mankind, it provides guidance which is surface guidance. But if you look up at the sky, you will see that there are stars in the sky. And for those who look at the stars and they see them twinkling, it's pretty, beautiful. That is surface guidance. But if you are in the sea and you have a ship and you want to navigate, you've got to study how the stars are connected with each other to know which direction to go. So too, he says, with the verses of the Quran, Allah says, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَ السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِحِ. And Allah has adorned the lowest sky with lamps. He refers to the stars as lamps. A lamp gives light. So too the verses of the Quran. They are like lamps, and they will give light when you learn to connect them together. But you cannot connect them together only with the rational faculty. You need more than that. So let us now go to Surah Al-Isra. This is not the conventional lecture. This is an unconventional lecture tonight. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram. Glory be to Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who took His servant Nabie Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, min al-masjid al-haram. He took him not just from a city, no, he took him from a masjid built by Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ila al-masjid al-aqsa. He took him from this masjid to that distant masjid built by Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam. الذي باركنا حوله. That masjid is different from this masjid. For that masjid is blessed and blessed and blessed. In a way, this has not been blessed. What is the blessing that masjid got that this one did not get? Answer, Anbiya alayhim salam, one after the other, continuously. Anbiya, prophets of Allah, are coming there, to that masjid, in that land. الذي باركنا حوله. So it is Al-Ardul Mubarakah, the blessed land. The Quran also refers to it by another name, Al-Ardul Muqaddasa, the Holy Land. And woe unto those who will not direct attention to study this subject. What happened at that masjid? لِنُرِيَهُ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا. Took him on this journey for a specific reason. What is the reason? Took him to show him certain ayat, certain signs, certain symbols, to provide him with knowledge of certain things. And then the ayah ends, the verse ends, إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. He is the one who hears. But something more. Something more. He is also the one who is Basir. And Basar is not just this side. No. Basar is also this side. There are those who see with one eye. Most people today see with only one eye. And there are others who see with two eyes. This is a branch of knowledge called epistemology. Those who see with one eye usually have a university degree. They see with only the external eye. Do we have any other eyes besides these eyes? Huh? They don't teach this at university, no? Yes, the Quran says yes. The modern world says no, but the Quran says yes. That in addition to these eyes we have internal sight, al-basir, basar. That the heart can see when the heart has nur, and nur is not sold in the supermarket. يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah gives nur to whomsoever Allah wishes to give it. But you will not get the nur unless you plant. If you do not plant, you will not reap. وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِ. Allah watches the heart. He hovers around the heart. And He knows who are those who say, no, I can't speak like that. If I do that, then go say I'm a terrorist. You think you'll get nur in your heart? No, I can't speak like that. I can't act like that. They're going to put my name on a no-fly list. Do you think you'll get nur in your heart? No, I can't do that. If I speak like that, my business will collapse. Do you think you'll get nur in your heart? It is when Allah puts nur in the heart that you can see not only with the external eye, but the internal eye. And He ends the ayah with this word, basir. And so the story of Isra and Meeraj needs more than the rational faculty. You need more than that. You need to also be able to see with the nur of Allah. You need to be able to connect the stars, to see the big picture, to know which direction the ship should go. So Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is taken on this journey. When did it happen? Just before the Hijrah. He's about to go to Medina. It was called Yathrib. And in Medina there is a very large community of people who worship one God and who have a book, the Jews. And Allah's messenger is about to have an encounter with the Jews. It is going to be a historic encounter. You cannot understand the world today unless you go back to that moment. And Allah is preparing His servant, His messenger, for that encounter with the Jews in Medina by taking him on a journey to Jerusalem. While we were in Mecca and we performed Salat, at that time Salat was not 5 times a day, no. At that time Salat was not bil Jama'ah, no. But we performed Salat in the direction of Jerusalem, because Jerusalem was the Qibla. And so Allah's messenger is taken to the Qibla, to Jerusalem. And the Jews also turn to Jerusalem. And he's taken there to be shown some signs. What were the signs? And then from Jerusalem he's taken up into the Samawat. The Isra and Meeraj can be studied, but it's also a story, a narration. And all our lives we've been hearing the narration. It's nice to hear it, especially when you're young and you know when it's Meeraj al-Nabie, when it's Meeraj al-Nabie time, this time you get Malida to eat. I don't know whether Madida gone today. But we used to eat Madida at this night. So this is the story. And as a child I would listen to Salim Chacha, and his granddaughter is there. Salim Chacha in St. Thomas Village, Chagonas, and he'd be reciting in Urdu and the translation in English. And we were children listening to this story with big eyes. The story of Isra and Meeraj. How he went up to the first Sama, to the second Sama, to the third, and in each one he meets the Prophet of Allah. Prior to going up, when he arrived in Jerusalem, he led his Salat. And all the Anbiya were there in the Salat. And so the first thing we know, the first message which is being sent, is that this is the same religion. This is not a new religion. Because all the prophets of Allah were there in that Salat. Islam is not a new religion. It is the same religion that you are worshipping. The same God that you are worshipping is our God as well. And then he now sees them as he goes into the Samawat, the prophets whom he saw in Masjid al-Aqsa, until he reaches into the highest of the Samawat. And there in the highest of the Samawat, he comes to Sidratul Muntaha. Sidra is a tree. So be careful with the tree. A tree can teach us many, many things. In Suratul Nuh, we are told, Wallahu ambatakum min al-ardi nabata, that Allah has caused you to grow forth from the earth like trees and plants. So you want to get some knowledge about people, look at the trees and you'll see not all trees are poetry, ornamental. No, so not all men are handsome and not all women are beautiful. No, there are some trees which are there for timber, to make furniture, to cook your food. And if you roast your baigan on a wood fire, baigan chokha, it tastes different than if you cook it on a gas stove. Allah says in Surah Yasin, He provided wood for cooking. And there are some trees which are there for food and for fruit, and some are there for medicine. And some trees are there for shade, a big umbrella, and that is the sidra. In the desert sun, this tree has big leaves, so the shade is the best shade of all. And there at the sidra, which is Muntaha, the farthest one of all, there Allah's Messenger is looking at the sidra. فَأَوْحَى إِلَىٰ عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى. He is standing there looking at the tree, and at that moment, this is Suratun Najm now, Allah gives to His servant what He gives him, what He bestows upon him, what He reveals to him. فَأَوْحَى إِلَىٰ عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى. Whatever he saw, whatever knowledge he got, مَا كَذَبَ الْفُؤَادُ مَا رَأَى مَا كَذَبَ الْفُؤَادُ مَا رَأَى. His heart is seeing. So it's not these eyes. It is with this eye he is seeing. And if we live all our lives, and we never have the capacity to see with this eye, we're just like cattle. We're just like cattle. If you want nur, go to the Quran. Go to the Quran. فَأَوْحَى إِلَىٰ عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى مَا كَذَبَ الْفُؤَادُ مَا رَأَى. His heart did not reject what he saw. And then Allah goes on to speak about وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى عِنْدَ سِدْرَةِ الْمُنْتَهَى. When he looked at the tree, إِذْ يَغْشَى السِّدْرَةَ مَا يَغْشَى. The tree was shrouded with that with which it was shrouded, something covering it. مَا زَاغَ الْبَصَرُ وَمَا طَغَى. His gaze, as he's gazing at the tree, his gaze never wavered, it never became tired. No. What a moment that was. And then comes the most important statement of all. Listen to it. لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. If this verse does not shake us up, what will shake us up? لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. He saw the greatest of the signs of Allah. So you and I, we have a thirst and a hunger in our heart. We want to know, what did he see? What did he see? To answer that question, we now have to turn away from the narrative, the story, and we have to study now. It is a subject for study. What did he see? This lecture is not going to end on a happy note. So let's do the nice part first before we end it. What did he see? He informed us when he came back of some of the things that he saw, but he did not tell us all. There are some things that he saw that he did not tell us about. And it came out later on, in bits and pieces, over time. But you have to be able to connect between the stars to be able to recognize that he saw it there. He came back, for example, and he said that I was allowed to look into Jahannam. And I saw that most of those in Jahannam were women. And your mother is a woman, and my mother is a woman. So this must be the mother of all warnings. When a man is misguided, when a man begins to drink and do this and that and the other, the wife, the mother can still stand up and save the family. Yes, he is wayward. He's doing all these bad things, but Mama, she held on, and she kept the home and she kept the children. When a son or a daughter goes astray, the parents can still keep the home together. But when a wife and a mother goes astray, she takes down the whole home with her. That's the warning. And in the Isra and Meeraj, he saw that in the time that is to come, strange things are going to happen in the world of women. When I was a boy, I never saw a woman wearing pants. We never saw that. Much less blue jeans. I mean, to see a woman or a girl in blue jeans is like the sky falling down. That was yesterday. And we have had the misfortune to live in an age in which everything has collapsed before our eyes. And now you can see hijab on the top and very tight jeans underneath. Yes. The hijab there, I live in Malaysia for many years, so I can see what it is like in Malaysia. They're all in hijab at the top. But guess what? He said that women will be dressed and would yet be naked. when he came back from Isra and Meeraj. He said that. But we never connected with Isra and Meeraj. That's the problem. It's there before us today. Women are dressed and yet naked. He said that women would dress like men, and I've seen her. I saw her photograph in the newspaper with a tie. Yes, I won't mention who she is. The women will dress like men, and he said that men will dress like women. That's coming probably. So he brought back all of this information from Isra and Meeraj. But I don't think this is the greatest of the ayat of Allah. No, this is terrible. This causes us to tremble. He said that there will be universal riba in Akhirul Zaman, the end time. He saw it there while looking at Sidratul Muntaha. Riba is not just borrowing and lending money on interest. Riba is when you rip off someone as well. Once upon a time, right here in Trinidad, we had a leader, a rare leader. His name was Haji Ruknuddin. He was not a Maulana, no, he was a tailor. He did tailoring for a living. And there was a man who used to lend money on interest, because we didn't have banks in those days. Haji Ruknuddin went to meet that man, I won't mention his name, and said, what you're doing is haram, lending money on interest. Stop it. And the man would not listen to Haji Ruknuddin, rahimahullah. So our leader gave an order. No one is to eat food in his house. And if even he comes to the masjid with a bag of money, no one is to accept it. And this Muslim community obeyed the leader. That was then. And look at it today. He said that riba will be everywhere. You will not be able to find a single person in all of mankind who will not be consuming riba. And whosoever says he is not consuming riba, verily the dust of riba would be upon him. Verily the vapor of riba will reach him. And you know how terrible is this sin? I'll tell you how. He came back from Isra and Meeraj to say that whoever consumes even 1 dirham of riba. He used the word dirham. He didn't use the word US dollar or euro or TT dollar. He said dirham, because that is money in Islam. Whosoever consumes even 1 dirham of riba, it is equivalent to committing zina, adultery, 36 times. These are some of the signs that he came back with. But our question is, while looking at Sidratul Muntaha, which was the greatest of all signs? لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. Which was the greatest of all signs that he saw? Answer. In order to answer this question, we have to connect the dots. We have to see how the stars are interconnected. Number one, there have to be signs connected with Jerusalem and with Masjid al-Aqsa, the greatest of all signs. And therefore there have to be signs connected with the Jews. That's how we'll answer. And if you go to the Jews and you ask them, which are the greatest of the signs of Allah? You get the answer. The Quraysh did not know how to deal with someone who was born and grew up amongst them and who was so truthful that they called him Al-Amin, and who now declares, I am a prophet, like unto Abraham and Moses. alayhi salam. So they decided to send a delegation to Medina to ask the rabbis, how can we tell whether he is indeed a prophet? So the delegation went to Medina, and the rabbi said, ask him these three questions. I have dealt with it in a book over there entitled Surah Al-Kahf in the Modern Age. Ask him these three questions. Number one, ask him about the great traveler who traveled to the two ends of the land. And when we go to that subject, it takes us to something called Gog and Magog. Number two, ask him about the young men in the cave. You know they went in the cave and they slept for how long? 300 years. When you go to that subject, it takes you to Dajjal. And number three, ask him about the ruh, which is a very, very difficult subject. The ruh. Because Allah says, I created him from clay. وَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ, after I had fashioned him, Adam alayhi salam, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, and I breathed into him of my ruh. فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ, make sajda before him. So what is the ruh that Allah breathed into him? Of course we know now, at this time, sajda is only to Allah. But at an earlier time, it was, you could make sajda before a human being. At that time. But at this time, no more. Sajda is only to Allah. The Hindus have preserved this part of the original deen up to this day. That the Hindus still go down and touch the feet of the Guru, and the wife touches the foot of the husband, and they do it as an act of respect, but they don't know, I don't know perhaps whether they know it or not, that this is part of the original deen. You go down and touch the foot. So the angels went down and touched, made sajda before Adam alayhi salam. But no longer, now when the Quran is revealed, sajda now is only to Allah. So ask him about the ruh. We don't have the time tonight to look at the ruh. But the greatest of the signs, لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى, the greatest of the signs that he saw in the Isra and the Meeraj have to be connected with Gog and Magog and with Dajjal, because this is what the rabbis recognize as the greatest. This is, if he can answer these questions, he is indeed a prophet of Allah. That's what they said. So now let's go and see what did he see when looking at the tree. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam came back, and now this is going to be difficult for you. This is difficult for all of us, so be careful now. He came back from the Isra and Meeraj and spoke to us about Gog and Magog. But we know from the Quran, Gog and Magog have to be human beings, because it's only a human being or a jinn who commits fasad, an evil deed. And they are not jinn, they have to be human beings. And we know that these human beings, Gog and Magog, are behind a barrier built by Zulkarnain. And when Allah brings down that barrier and they are released, they're going to spread out all over the world. We know that they're very powerful, because even Zulkarnain cannot fight them. So when they spread out all over the world, they are evil beings. They're going to bring evil all over the world. They will spoil everything in the whole world, Gog and Magog. But there's one big sign by which we can recognize Gog and Magog. That they bring a people back to a certain town. The town was destroyed. Allah expelled those people and then put a ban they can never return to that town. My book, Jerusalem in the Quran, identifies the town of Jerusalem. So when the Jews are brought back to Jerusalem to reclaim it as their own, that is the sign that Gog and Magog have brought them back. Wrong methodology. Wrong methodology is to go to one solitary hadith and say, no, Gog and Magog will not come back until Jesus has come. Nabie said, wrong methodology. You've disrespected the Quran. You'll pay a price for disrespecting the Quran. Right methodology is go to the Quran first, not the hadith. So when Gog and Magog are released and they spread out and take control of the world with the power, evil power, they will bring the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. The Jews are back in the Holy Land now. So Gog and Magog have been released. But Gog and Magog corrupting everything they're corrupting. And Nabi Muhammad ﷺ came back from the Isra and Meeraj to give us a hadith al-Qudsi. It is difficult, so careful now. It is a hadith which is located in Sahih Bukhari 4 times. But you can live your entire life, no Maulana will ever quote the hadith. No. They run from this hadith, I don't know why. You never hear it. I'm sorry to speak like this. I'm 75 years of age now. I've seen it all. So my language is a little bit harsh now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to Adam alayhi salam. And it is Judgment Day. And he says to Adam alayhi salam, take out the people for Jahannam. Adam alayhi salam asks, how many are they, O Allah? For Jahannam, for the hellfire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, out of every 1,000, take 999 for Jahannam. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. It is repeated 4 times, but nobody ever quotes this hadith. None. Never. Take 999 out of every 1,000 for the hellfire. So the companions were terrified. He looked at them and he smiled and he said, good news for you. The one for Jannah will be from you, someone who is following the truth which has come from Allah. But then he went on to say that the 999 will all be Ahlu Ya'juj wa Ma'juj, the people of Gog and Magog. So now we have a question to ask. The question is this: Allah is Ar-Rahman, the compassionate God. He's Ar-Rahim, the merciful God. He's Al-Ghaffar, the God who forgives. He says in the Quran, Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a, Allah can forgive all sins. He says in the Hadith al-Qudsi, tell my servants if they come to me with sins as high as the sky, I can forgive them all. How can a God who is loving and merciful and kind and compassionate and forgiving, who is prepared to forgive all sin, how can he send 999 out of every 1,000 into the hellfire? That's the question. The answer? He says, there is one sin I will not forgive. What is that sin? Shirk. That sin, if you die with it, Allah will not forgive it. What is shirk? It is to worship a God other than Allah. But that's not the only form of shirk. In Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned the Jews and the Christians for worshipping their priests and their rabbis as gods beside Allah. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم من دون الله. And he declared that this was shirk. Surah At-Tawbah. So a man came to the Prophet and said, O Messenger of Allah, but the Christians do not worship their priests. And the Jews do not worship their rabbis. How could Allah say so? To which the Prophet replied and he said, did they not make halal what Allah made haram? That is shirk. And did the people not accept it and follow it? That is their shirk. So if the priest or the rabbi makes halal what Allah made haram, or makes haram what Allah made halal, and that is shirk. If the government of Trinidad and Tobago do the same thing, would it not be shirk? Answer me. Answer me. Well, that's what the government of Trinidad and Tobago just did. And I don't have a government job, so they can't fire me. I'm angry. And I want them to know that I'm angry. It doesn't matter to me whether it's this government or it's that government. I cannot reach the age of 75 and study the Quran all my life to see this nonsense going on. I have to speak. Allah has given a law of marriage in the Quran. There are two requirements for marriage. Number one, that the girl must be baligha. She must reach the age of puberty, where she has the monthly cycle, so she can become a mother. But number two, she must have rushd. So if her father left some money for her, $100,000, and you give it to her, she wouldn't play with it like dolly house. Huh? She must have some maturity before you could hand it to her. So you have a shop and you want her to handle the cashier, to take the money. If she is sufficiently responsible that she could handle the money, then she has reached rushd. These are the two requirements. And all through history, when a girl reached the age of 17 years of age, nobody ever said that she's too young, she's still a child, she can't get married. But this government, in an unprecedented act of foolishness and stupidity, an unprecedented act of foolishness and stupidity, has now brought legislation to this country that unless she reaches the age of 18, she cannot be married. Well, my response to the government of Trinidad and Tobago is that you have now made haram what Allah made halal. And you've committed an act of shirk. If nobody else would say it, I would say it. And if we accept what you have done, and we submit to it, we also commit shirk. And a marriage officer in this country who refuses now to conduct a marriage ceremony because the law of the land says, no, she's 17, she cannot be married, should be fired, because he is also committing shirk. Around the world world today, this law, about 18 years of age, is being enacted all over the world. It didn't come from this party, it came from Washington. And every country you go around the world, you see the same law being enacted all around the world. This is only one example of the shirk. So he came back from Isra and Meeraj to tell us, to give us, لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. He saw the greatest of the signs of Allah. This is one of them. This is far more important than women dressed and yet naked. Now let me give you one more and we'll be finished. He came back from the Isra and Meeraj and told us something about events that will occur. He said, when Jerusalem is flourishing, Medina will be in forlorn desolation. And when Medina is in forlorn desolation, that is the time when the Great War will take place, the Malhama. And when the Great War will take place, then the next thing will be the conquest of Constantinople, and then the release of Dajjal. Dajjal comes in the human form. This knowledge he got when he looked at the Sidratul Muntaha. One of the things that Dajjal needs to do in order to convince the Jews that he is the Messiah is that he has to rule the world from Jerusalem. Israel is small. How could Israel rule the world when Israel is so small? Dajjal has to rule the world from Jerusalem. So either Israel had to become big or the world had to become small. Which one will it be? Answer, the world will have to become smaller. That is why we have a big war coming up. And that is why we make the dua, oh Allah grant that we may live to see Ramadan, because we don't know whether we live to see Ramadan. The war can start before Ramadan. And if this war starts, it's going to be a nuclear war. So he wants to rule the world from Jerusalem, and there's going to be a big war. Did he see the big war? When he looked at the Sidratul Muntaha? Let us quote the hadith for you and we'll now end. The second hadith I'm quoting, again from Sahih Bukhari. He said that the river Euphrates, which is in Iraq, will uncover a mountain of gold. And people will fight for that gold. And 99 out of every 100 in that war will be killed. I tell you, every single person fighting in the American Armed Forces listening to this hadith today. Every single one of them. They're listening to this hadith today. And they're scared, all of them scared. He says people will fight for that mountain of gold. And 99 out of every 100 will be killed. And each one will say, I will be the one who will survive. But the believers must not touch that gold. The Salafi have a methodology. I'm not bad talking the Salafi, I'm only speaking from point of view of knowledge. The Salafi have a methodology. They say, unless Allah and His Messenger have interpreted, you don't have the right to interpret. So they're waiting for the mountain of the metal to come out from underneath the river. A mountain of gold. We have a different methodology. This is my latest book that I've just written, Methodology for Study of the Quran. And this teaches how to deal with this hadith. We say no. It is not a mountain of the metal that is going to come out from underneath the river. And they're going to fight for it, and 99 out of every 100 who fight will be killed, which of course is the Great War, the Malhama. There is something underneath the river, which is vast, like a mountain, and which one day will function as gold. That is what he's talking about. And that happened in 1974. The US dollar was collapsing. It no longer had any link with gold. And what the Americans succeeded in doing is getting Saudi Arabia to commit itself to sell oil for only US dollars. If you want to buy oil and you have gold, you can't buy it. You have euros, you can't buy it. The only way you can buy oil is if you have US dollars. And since oil is the largest commodity traded in the world market, what the Americans did was to establish a permanent demand for the US dollar. And so the US dollar survived. And today it's flying high. The US dollar became the petrodollar in 1974. And an ocean of oil. You are an intelligent people, mashallah. You have a capacity to understand, mashallah. And if you have nur in your heart, you'll see even more. An ocean of oil underneath the river began to function as a mountain of gold. So they're going to fight for this petrodollar monetary system. And that war is going to be the Great War. Are we now facing that war? Yes. Russia and China have combined to challenge the petrodollar monetary system. Yes. The writing is on the wall. They've established something called BRICS. That's only one part of the system of challenge. And the US dollar is in peril. If the US dollar were to collapse, every single currency on the face of the earth will collapse. None can survive. Because the paper money is bogus, it's fraudulent, it's utterly haram, and that's the subject I'm teaching now on IBN every Sunday morning. We are now at that moment in time when they're about to fight for the mountain of gold in order to prevent the collapse of the monetary system, the petrodollar monetary system. We know from what he saw in the Isra and the Meeraj, we know that in this war which is now coming, when Brother Nizam and I were children, babies, the Second World War was fought. But what is coming will make the Second World War look like peanuts, because this is nuclear war. That we know that in this war which is coming, 99 out of every 100 of the combatants will be killed. Who said so? Nabie Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So we've given you two hadiths. 999 about every 1,000. And 99 out of every 100. He came back from the Isra and Meeraj, and Allah gave him a gift. He came back with the 5 daily salat. The 5 daily salat are not in the Quran. And when I go to Iran, the Shia point that the Quran speaks of 3 times a day. Akim salata لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ وَقُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ. So the Shia perform 3 times a day. And they combine Zuhar and Asr, and they combine Maghrib, and that's the Shia. But Nabie Muhammad ﷺ came back with the 5 times Salat, put in. This was Allah's gift to him. But something else he came back with, which will now end. He came back with the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. And in those last two verses, we are a people who say, Sami'na wa ata'na. We listen and we obey. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may grant that we may be able to listen and to obey Him. That we may now return to the Quran and study the Quran. And study the Isra and Meeraj as we've never studied it before. That we may get greater insight into Allah's greatest ayat. لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. He saw the greatest of the signs of Allah. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا يَا مَوْلَانَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ بِرَحْمَتِكَ يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ آمين.